The offensive lineman, the 49ers signed Trent Williams, 6 years, $138 million. It's really a 3-year deal, but it's still for a lot of money, $55 million guaranteed. Chiefs signed Joe Thuney, 5 years, $80 million. Chargers signed Corey Linsley, 5 years, $62.5 million. Ravens signed Kevin Zeitler, 3 years, $22 million. Chargers signed Matt Feiler, 3 years, $21 million. Patriots re-signed David Andrews, 4 years, $19 million. Chiefs signed Kyle Long out of retirement, 1 year, $5 million. And 49ers signed Alex Mack, 1 year, $5.5 million. So what are your thoughts on these offensive lineman signings?
My first thought is there is almost no contract on here that I don't like. All these guys are good blockers. For the Mack and Long signings, yeah, they're getting older, but you're on 1 year deals here. And then Kyle Long, should be better with the year off. The Patriots getting David Andrews back was a surprise because they signed Ted Karras from the Dolphins, and it looked like Andrews was going to walk. Then he came back for a team discount for 4 years. I was stunned that he would take that big of a discount for 4 years, but he guess really wanted to stay. Feiler, $7 million a year for a versatile starting offensive lineman at guard or tackle. Sign me up. Zeitler, again, $7 million a year roughly for a player who was once one of the best guards in the league. Dropped off a little last year, but can still start. I'm all on board. Corey Linsley is the best center in the game, so $12 million a year to work with Justin Herbert. That's going to work out well. Joe Thuney is one of my favorite players. He never misses a snap. He can play any position on the offensive line, though he's best at left guard, which is where he should play for the Chiefs. I'm worried about the Chiefs tackle position right now, but they can address that in the draft. The one that stands out as a little odd is Trent Williams. I know you said it's basically a 3-year deal. I'm surprised that they signed him that long for that much money, even if the last 3 years are void years. Trent Williams was great last year, and he made a comeback from a scary situation in Washington where he had some cancerous or potentially cancerous growth on his head, and then he's held out a year. He had dealt with knee injuries in the past, but he went to San Francisco and blocked really well. So I'm all for them keeping him. I'm just a little concerned about the amount of money, $55 million guaranteed for an older player who has had a history of knee injuries. That would be my one concern here. Every other signing, though, I love. If you can beef up the offensive line, you have to do it. Even in a year where the draft is pretty strong at tackle, I think the more you can invest in the offensive line, the better. I'm especially happy with the Chargers getting 2 of the top free agents on the market.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of our handicapping in the super contest is how teams are doing on the offensive line, if they're missing multiple starters on the offensive line. Building up your blocking is so important, especially if you have a younger quarterback. Like you mentioned with Justin Herbert, the Corey Linsley signing was amazing. Probably the best one here. I think it's tied with Joe Thuney. Because we saw what happened with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. Even the best quarterback in the NFL needs a good offensive line. Otherwise, he can't beat the best team, as we saw. So those 2 signings were the best. David Andrews, a close third, I think. He's had some injuries, recently, but I think that's a great deal for less than $20 million for 4 years. The 1 year deals I think are great because there's no risk. Obviously, there's downside. There would be downside if there were longer deals, but there's not any downside really. Feiler's a solid signing. But yeah, I agree with you about Trent Williams. Is a lot more money than I thought he would get. I thought he would get like a 2 year, $20 million, something like that. Like 1 year, $10 million, 1 year, $12 million. This is so much money, so many years for offensive lineman who's had, as you said, injury issues, other issues in the past. And plus he's older. So, he could regress. Probably not. Like he's like, in all likelihood, he's probably going to play well for them. But he could miss time. And, if he does, I think this is going to be disastrous. So if I'm the 49ers, they have a bunch of draft picks. I think I would take a tackle in like rounds 3 through 5. It's kind of like an insurance policy for Trent Williams. But keeping him is a good move overall. I just think they paid him too much money. But yeah, I agree. I mean, all these signings, none of them are terrible.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say about Trent Williams, too, is I had Joe Thuney and Corey Linsley as my top 2 free agent offensive linemen in general on the market, and Williams checked in at number 3 amongst the O-linemen for me. So I think it was just maybe the initial shock of seeing him get so much. And I know he plays tackle, which is more of a premium position than guard and center is at least compensated as now, even though we could argue that guards and centers are just as important now because of interior pressure. So I think that was part of it too, because I was like, oh yeah, these guys got, this much money. Trent Williams won't get a ton more than that. And it was like, all right, he's getting like double what Corey Linsley got at least on the surface. So that was just what surprised me. But like you said, I think it'll end up panning out.
Yeah, I think it's the left tackle premium. I mean, he's the only left tackle we mentioned on this list. But yeah, I like you said, guard and center play has gotten so much more important. They're not going to make a movie about it with Sandra Bullock in it, but these positions are important. I know for a fact that Drew Brees thought that interior pressure was worse for him than edge pressure. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.